Hi, welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions with Dan Hank. And today my guest is Lucas Magnum. Is that correct?
Close enough. Mangum.
Right. I knew I'd fuck it up, but all right, man. So, what do you got going on?
Oh yeah, no. So we were just you and I both were just at KillerCon a couple weeks ago. And that was a good time. Was I don't know, I think it was and Wrath agreed with me when I brought it up to him. I think it might have been the best one since the convention moved to Austin. I don't know what was your experience similar?
Oh, I enjoyed it actually. It was the first convention I did where I sold every one of my books. Like, I had no more. People were coming up to me. I was like, I have no more. So, like, yeah. I felt bad I didn't bring more, but it's like, it was great that I sold them.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I sold pretty well too. There was a lot of people just coming off the street, I guess, because I mean, they'd heard Aaron and Chris were there, Aaron Beauregard and Chris Triana, and they're just like excited to find this whole world of just extreme horror and splatterpunk books. I don't know. It was a really good time. Met a lot of new people, and then also there was plenty of like old faces as well, people who I've, come to know over the years doing KillerCon. And yeah, that's for the listeners, that's every year in Austin, middle of August, for those who are curious.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit like smaller this year, but then it was busier than ever.
Yeah.
Like the actual vendors and the venue seemed small, because I remember like 2 years ago it was like two rooms, like one for more of the art people and one for more of the writers, and this time it was like all condensed into one room. But yeah, it got pretty busy.
Yeah, no, it was pretty much nonstop. Yeah, but no, that was
congrats. You just won an award recently, right?
Yes. So, Saturday night was the Splatterpunk Awards ceremony, and my book Snow Angels got a Splatterpunk Award for Best Novella of 2023. Super cool. Awesome. Like that was, yeah. Thank you.
How many words is it? Like how many pages roughly?
Oh, it's about 150 pages, 200 pages, something like that. It's
so like a hearty novella. Like some people will do like 35 pages, like novella,
Yeah,
that's kind of a long short story, in my opinion, but
yeah, I kind of feel that way too. No, this is like more of a like 35,000 word. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So yeah, and I think for the Splatterpunk Awards specifically, anything under 50,000 and over 20,000, I think, is a novella, or it might be 15,000. I forget, but yeah.
So, what's it about?
Yeah, so it's about this town that gets kind of attacked by these undead ex-convicts during a snowstorm, because 30 years ago they were left to die in a snowstorm.
I was going to ask, why specifically ex-convicts? Like a group of people?
Yeah. I wanted to kind of tell a story about like kind of just like I was trying to think of like why these people would be left to die in the snow, like what would make them kind of undesirable to the townsfolk, and I that was kind of what I landed on. I was sort of like thinking along the lines of John Carpenter's The Fog, right, where he's got the pirates, and I was just like, well, what's like a good modern
take on that premise?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you normally do? Do you do like encapsulated stories? Like some people maintain the continuity and they try to tell like kind of an expansion or extension of every new novel. It's like the main world and the main character is now doing this or doing that. And then other people just do like short stories and they're not related at all. And some people kind of do that Stephen King thing where it's like they're kind of loosely tied together. How do you approach it?
I mean, I've definitely put Easter eggs in some of my stuff that does like callbacks to older books, but I don't know. It's pretty loose. Like I'd say they're mostly separate, but like every once in a while I'll like make a reference. Like sometimes I'll get meta with it and be like, oh, this they saw a book called Gods of the Dark Web or something. Yeah, just that's just me having a little bit of fun.
Kind of like a sneaking like a kind of Necronomicon, like this one evil sacred book that like brings horrible stuff to light.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have a preferred thing? Like, do you prefer cosmic horror? Do you prefer more slasher? Like, is there like one field or one genre that you feel like you're the most comfortable in?
Yeah, I'd say probably like the supernatural kind of but like with like kind of a heavy emphasis on like violence and such. But yeah, like so like I don't know, I guess sort of slashers, but like they're more like I don't know, usually a lot of times it's usually like a group that's doing the killing rather than just like a one, Jason type character. Like in Snow Angels, it's the undead ex-convicts, and then in Barn Door to Hell, it's like people that get possessed by this like entity that's been trapped in a barn for the last 100 years or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, I don't know, I guess like kind of the I guess I don't know, what are those called, like siege novels, or I
Right.
don't know, where they're like, yeah,
Like,
town under
was it
attack.
Precinct 13, stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I like that
What's
kind
the source of like the otherworldly or other stuff like that possesses people or turns like like if it's like Lovecraft to be like like the multi-dimension sphere, and it would be like and that's actually because I do cosmic horror. That's kind of like what I vibe off of. But people have all different things. Like some people are actually it's weird because I've interviewed them on the podcast. They're hardcore Christians, but like the
of.
whole spirituality of their religion leads them to believe in like vampires and like something
Right.
like zombies and so on. So I'm just wondering what the source of your stuff is.
Yeah. So I guess for in my stories, it tends to be like a lot of times the source is like a some kind of mix between like kind of a hell mythology, but also like with kind of a cosmic horror element to it as well. Like because it's not really like
Is there a physical hell?
um
Not even asking you personally. I'm just saying in your stories.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Yeah, but even then it's like I don't know, it kind of follows its own rules. I don't like, you know, I don't know, like probably
You
has
don't
more in common with
strictly subscribe to one coda.
yeah, exactly. Usually it's more like just like a really kind of dark, depressing place. And but like for the most part, it's like full of creatures, and like sometimes the creatures come up.
Do you find that like kind of like the genre inclusions that you prefer are the ones that are more popular with your readers, or do you feel like you kind of need to like add certain elements or like bring in certain elements to like make it a more fluid story that everyone would like?
You know, I like. I mean, I definitely. I don't know. I kind of just set out to kind of write what I like, because if I'm not happy, I think it's going to show in the writing, and it's just going to not be as enjoyable to read for people. Like I think you know you can kind of tell like how much fun I'm having with a project, just by reading it. Or at least I like to think so.
Do you like to go a little bit more extreme? Do you feel like there's a it's kind of almost a tie on the same question I just asked. Like, do you think about the market? Like, do you consider how you're going to market the book? You might go a little bit more extreme, or a little bit less extreme, or a little more blood and guts, or whatever.
Yeah, so I guess I mean, I'm definitely more like on the blood and guts end of the extreme spectrum. I mean, I do have stuff that has some of the other taboo elements. Like, I mean, my book Saint Sadist has incest and sexual violence in it. But for the most part, I tend to prefer like the kind of the blood and guts aspect of extreme. Like, because I feel like, if I'm gonna write violence, I want to make sure that it's like it's got an energy to it. Like, it just like feels violent, and it just looks like, I don't know, like kind of like something that looks like, I don't know, the movies I grew up loving, but maybe like a little more edgy, I guess.
Well, I know that some people, like, especially with horror, like, it seems like almost like a trope of American horror, especially in like the 70s and 80s. Well, like, they include a little bit of sexuality in it. And then there are
Yeah.
some people that definitely don't like one thing that bothers me about interpretations of Lovecraft stuff is like that guy was like a social pariah. Like, that guy was like he only had sex with one woman in his entire life. He was not the cool guy. So like when people like I know like I'm a big fan of Alan Moore and he did like interpretation of like the story of Dagon, like the I think it's the horror in his mouth or whatever. And it's
Mhm.
like it has all sorts of like weird sex practices and stuff. I'm just like, that's not Lovecraft.
No, no, definitely not. Like, I mean, I think in some cases, like when Edward Lee did like his Lovecraftian stories, I think I think he very aware of the fact that Lovecraft isn't that way, but I think like having it sexed up was like just funny to him,
Right.
which made it for kind of an enjoyable read. And yeah, no, I mean that's a good point because like yeah, like it seems like a lot of Lovecraft adaptations or tributes or whatever do tend to be like they're very much like somebody like kind of doing their own interpretive version of it, I guess. Like, like because
Right.
even the Stuart Gordon ones, which I love, like they're definitely a lot sexier than Lovecraft stuff tended to
Well, a
be.
lot more too. Like I like his movies. All the ones that are kind of Lovecraft based, I've seen. Like a Reanimator or From Beyond or Dagon.
Hmm.
Dagon was like you could tell he did it on like a very small budget.
Yeah.
But they all feel like his take on Lovecraft. It's not like the absolute interpretation of a Lovecraft story.
Right, right. And I guess like, and I guess like he had the freedom to do that because, with Lovecraft, it's like, I don't know, like I mean, there's a lot of people would say like I remember reading a lot of time that people would be like, oh, his stuff is unfilmable, and so it's like okay, so like if you're operating under that kind of mindset, then it's like of
It is
course of
infallible. If you assume it is, it is. Yeah.
yeah, 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 like of course you're gonna kind of just
Right.
reappropriate those ideas for your.
Did you see the new Nicolas Cage, like the color out of space?
I did, yeah, I thought that was pretty good. That might be.
It was a little bit cheesy, but I liked it. It's like it's
Yeah.
probably the best interpretation of the color out of space I've seen, and I've seen like 3 or 4 movies, kind of roughly based off that.
Yeah, I would say that one. Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the most faithful Lovecraft adaptations I've seen, like at least in terms of like what it's trying to get across. Yeah, because I guess Color Out of Space was also adapted as The Curse, right? Back in the 80s. And I feel like there was another one too.
What's that one? I think it's like Annihilation. It's like where there's like a group of scientists and there's like something
Oh,
weird happening
yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
venture into that. I think that was everyone was told me that's strongly based off the color out of space. And
I could
then
see
there
that.
are a couple more that I've seen there. Like there's a weird like almost I think a German movie. It's called The Color Out of Space. And it's like it's
Mm.
very very slow. It's like but it's not horrible, but it's not good.
I mean, even the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill, the segment from Creepshow is kind of
Right.
like the color
With
out of
Stephen
space.
King, yeah.
Yes, definitely a very different interpretation of it. But I mean,
Right.
not really. It's like this, thing lands from space.
It could be a
turns
Lovecraft story. I don't know if I call it the Color Out of Space story, but it could be a Lovecraft story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. Like, did you see the movie The Mist?
Oh yeah.
Like, I know Stephen King said that was his ode to Lovecraft.
I could see that for sure. I mean, yeah, even in the story too. Like, but like, because I read that before I saw the movie, and that's like so many of the monster descriptions, like they reminded me of.
You know that ending is not his ending. I mean, obviously, if you read the book, you know it's not.
Right.
And like he's famous for not liking movies that aren't a direct, interpretation of his work, like The Shining, which actually is my favorite movie. But he didn't like the portrayal, in The Shining. But with Mist, apparently he saw it. He goes, "I wish I thought of that."
I could see that because it's a hell of an ending. I mean, it's like
very dark.
Yes, awesome. Very dark. I saw it with a good friend, and we like came out of the theater, and we were just like quiet, like the whole we go outside, like couldn't even really talk, like we were just like looking around, all awkward, It's just
that means a meeting or that means a movie had some impact, so that was a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like we eventually did talk about it, but it took a while because we needed to take a breather,
So, but like you said, that's probably a good thing. Like you did, like the worst thing is for you to go, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a big fan of stuff that like gets a strong reaction. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, people had that like last year that Skinamarink movie came out, and I was just like, people, like, I didn't meet anybody who said that movie was just okay. Like, people either loved it or absolutely hated it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the worst too is like when they go extreme with the movie, and you're just like, it's okay. It's like, so why did they even bother? Like, I know a lot of people said that with like a Serbian film. I'm like, I didn't want to see it for the longest time, and then a coworker just put it on, so we all had to watch it basically while we're tattooing. But it's like a child gets raped. That's not really, it's not like I'm horribly offended, but it's like that's not something I want to see.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That movie, and I was like, yeah, but it's not that strong of a story. So it's like you went that extreme without like something to back it up. I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, I know people really like that movie, and I like a lot of aspects of it. But what was weird for me was with that movie was it didn't bother me the way it bothered some people, because like to me it just looks too slick. So it always felt like I was watching a movie, whereas
you're right. Yeah, it does feel a little bit slick. It doesn't feel indie enough, pretty much.
Yeah, like whereas like something like Necromantic or Cannibal Holocaust, it's like it feels like something you found,
Well, like, the guy who did Cannibal Holocaust, he actually got brought up on murder charges, and he had to find and produce the actor to say, "Look, they're not dead."
Yeah, I do remember reading that. That is so wild.
And the thing is, like, the effects were way worse back then, but he definitely pulled them off if he was getting charged with murder.
Yeah. I think like the documentary style of the way it was shot definitely added to that, and like, yeah, and I guess maybe the fact, I don't know, like, it just, that movie really has quite a reputation even today.
Well, I think the worst thing about the movie is like the animals, like the turtle they skinned.
Yeah,
I don't really care about the people. People are disposable.
Well, and just to be like clear for people who aren't familiar, like the animal death in that movie is real, whereas the people death in that movie is not. Like,
right.
Like when they stab that I forget what it's called, but everyone calls it a muskrat. It's not a muskrat. It has a different name. But I don't know. Like you can tell that it's scared, and I was just like, oh, I don't like that.
Right.
But that said, I do think it's a really good movie. Otherwise,
right. Yeah, well, definitely is genre genre breaker. Like it made everybody kind of wake up, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But so going back to your fiction, how long have you been writing, and what do you have out?
Oh wow, I have a lot of stuff out. I've been writing, I guess professionally, I've been writing for about 12 years. I've got close to 20 books out, most of them novellas, almost all of them novellas.
Do you stick
And
to a certain word count? Like that's kind of your comfort zone?
yeah, I would say like 20 to 40,000 words is probably my sweet spot. Anywhere in that range. I would say like, I mean, to even narrow it down more, I would say 30 to 40,000 is probably it. I mean, I do have a few full length novels. One of them was a collaboration I did with Ryan Harding. That's called Pandemonium, and it's about kind of this pro wrestling event that opens a gateway to hell and like possesses a bunch of people in the audience and some of the wrestlers, and it's just nonstop carnage from there. I think the body count in that book is like 120 or something.
What's funny is it's a little bit off topic, but I saw a comedian and he was like, "Have you seen John Wick?" And by the way, if you haven't seen John Wick, it's an awesome movie.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
he's like, "Have you seen John Wick?" He's like, "Oh, it was great, but like basically, someone kills his dog and then he kills 3,000 people." So I thought, well, that's a little bit excessive, but now I have a dog. I thought that was a great quote.
it's a great quote. Yeah, yeah. John Wick's great, man. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the sequels, but I like the first one.
Yeah, the first one I think is like often the first one is the best because like it builds a world for you. But
Yeah,
like I think there are four movies in total. Yeah, four movies in total, and they're all good. I
cool,
enjoyed them
cool.
all.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like I liked that, the first one. I need to see the others, but then I also really like as far as like violent action movies go, like have you watched The Equalizer with Denzel Washington?
No, I haven't. The thing, I mean, yeah, action movies really aren't my thing.
Okay.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll watch it. Like I basically John Wick was described to me, even though apparently it's not. It was like a comic book adaptation. So it was like that's why I checked it out. So like I'm big into comic books. I originally wanted to be a comic artist. And like a lot of that stuff I'll like give a little bit of leeway. I'll give it a trial, or like, same thing with like sci-fi or horror, but action just really isn't. I've heard the Equalizer is good though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It definitely has kind of that comic book energy to it, though. That's why I bring it up. Um, yeah.
Okay, so like going back, you said you've been writing for like was it 18 years now? About 20
About
books out.
yeah, professionally, I'd say about 12 years. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a publisher you stick with? You have multiple publishers? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I guess my breakout book was probably Gods of the Dark Web, which came out through Deadite Press. But that's also my only Deadite Press book. The editor there and Jeff Burke, he ended up leaving shortly after. But and then after
Yeah, I
that, I
remember
did.
me and Jeff had a big conversation at KillerCon. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of information out there about it. I'm sure people can find it if they're curious. But there's yeah. So I guess after that, I did Saint Sadist with Grindhouse Press, which was that book was my first Splatterpunk Award nomination. It didn't win that year, but getting nominated is cool. But yeah, no, I've worked with a few publishers. I've also put out some stuff myself as well. Like my most recent book, Barn Door to Hell, I released that myself back in April. It was kind of I keep like saying it was like kind of a gift to myself on my 40th birthday because it's like I don't know, it kind of felt and reads like kind of the kind of book I've just always wanted to kind of write, but like, really felt like
Why would you say it's the kind of book you've always wanted to write?
I don't know, just something in the way it feels and the way it moves. I guess it's got like this. I think the writing itself is very smooth. It's like it took me a while to kind of find that smoothness in the prose, and then I also just I don't know. I just really like the idea of the story. Like it's just like there's this demonic entity in a barn that's there because this farmer wanted to use its blood to kind of grow better crops, but they have to feed it every once in a while, otherwise it gets out, and then it does eventually get out, and it starts like turning people into these like murderous scarecrow type creatures. I don't know. It's just it's like one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I would probably.
So it's a peaceful child story, basically.
It's a what?
A peaceful children's story, right?
Yes. Yeah. Of course.
So where can people find your stuff? Is it like mostly available on Amazon? Is it like there are very few traditional bookstores left anymore, but the ones that are left, like it seems like if, for instance, they're in Colorado, it's like what are the local populace? What are they reading? So we'll just start it with that. Like I remember talking to somebody about comic books, for instance. A lot of the comic book stores. They don't really sell much Marvel and DC. It's mainly like indie producers that have ties with the community.
Yeah. So I have been trying to get into more brick and mortar stores, of course. Like I've got a few books at Brian Keene's store in Pennsylvania, Vortex Books and Comics. I've got some books in Gardner's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because they actually just put up an extreme horror section. So they've got books by me, Wrath James White, Aaron Beauregard, all the all stars, I guess. Of
all the people that write disgusting stuff, but in a good way.
Yes, of course. And then I've got a pretty decent selection in Ghoulish Books down in San Antonio as well. And then, so those, like, if you wanted to, support an indie bookstore, I would say order from one of those three places. You can also order signed books directly from me at my initials, lmhorror.com.
Is that your website?
Yes, it's my store. And then, to stay up to date with. Do you have
any goodies you give them, like stickers or bookmarks or anything like that?
Yeah, so when you buy a signed book, you get a sticker and a bookmark.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm going to be adding a few more items on there fairly soon. I just sold out of signed hardcovers of Barn Door to Hell, so I've got some paperbacks left on there. And then you could, of course, Amazon, and then you can keep up to date with my stuff by subscribing to my newsletter at lucasmangum.substack.com.
Okay. And I guess you have like a shopping cart on your website so they can go there and they can buy your stuff.
Yep, exactly.
And everyone, I know that Amazon is easy, but you have no idea like the huge percentage Amazon takes and the way that they play with the algorithms and all that stuff. So
yes,
buy indie.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I don't want to keep you here all day. Let's wrap it up pretty soon. But I want to ask you a couple things. First, what would you say like are your biggest like influences or inspirations? Like what like if people like your work, what should they check out? And if they check it out, why should they go to your work? Like how is it like what inspires you?
Oh wow. Let's see. John Carpenter movies.
What's your favorite of the John Carpenter movies?
It's
don't say the thing. Because the thing is what everyone picks.
The Thing's awesome, but like for me, it's either The Fog or In the Mouth of Madness.
Okay. I think In the Mouth of Madness is like too often not brought up. It's an awesome movie.
Yeah, that's another like I would say that is like a great Lovecraft adaptation, even though it's not directly based on a work of Lovecraft.
But that is supposed to be like Kane Hodder. I think it's Kane
Sutter
Hodder.
Kane.
Sutter Kane, yeah. Sutter Kane is Kane Hodder is Jason. He's the guy who plays Jason. Yeah, but Sutter Kane is basically supposed to be Lovecraft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what makes it really cool. It's just it's a fun film. If you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. And then I would say like, this will be a little out there, but like, I mean, reading stuff like Goosebumps as a kid was a huge thing, of course. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and JB Stamper.
Well, you could totally like throw a wrench in and say, well, Spy Kids.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I would say people who are working today that I really like. I've got to say Shay McKenzie and Wrath James White. I mean, they're also, they're local to me. We hang out, but I also really like their books. And then, of course, Judith Sonnet is somebody whose work really excites me.
Yeah, Judith is cool. We had her on the podcast.
Cool. Yeah. I saw that episode actually.
Well, I'm sure you did a little research. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Let me check out his.
Well, no, I've seen you at KillerCon a few times. I know who you are. we got pancakes one time, I think.
All right. So, do you have another site like that you want to point out? Anything else you want to point out?
I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Lucas Mangum Horror.
Do you do those little dances on TikTok?
No dances, but maybe I should. Maybe that'll maybe that's good content.
Have you seen Jeff Strange's thing where he did a reimagining of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? He gets pelted by tomatoes while he's
yeah. I did see that. That was special.
That's an awesome use, in my opinion, of TikTok.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Jeff Strand's funny as hell.
He's a funny guy. It's weird because he's like kind of reserved, but that's just until he knows you. And then after he knows you, then he just opens up. Yeah, a lot of people like that. Yeah, especially a lot of creative people. But all right, man. Well, thank you very much for doing this. Do you have anything else you want to throw out? Anything you want to say?
Well, no, thanks for having me. And remember lmhorror.com for signed books or lucasmangum.substack.com for the newsletter. And I'll hopefully see you at one of those places.
Well, you'll see me definitely in the next KillerCon. Like, are you going?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
Yes, it's in my backyard basically, so I can't not go.
Right, they'll track you down. You'll be at your house, like
Wrath
and pancakes. You'll be like, "Fuck!"
Wrath will drag me out the window all the way down I-35.
Wrath comes in with the machete,
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, again, thank you for doing this, and I'll wrap it up with that. And anything else you have to say?
No, we're good. That was fun. Thank you so much.